Everyone froze when the bucket hit her head. Not because of the water, but because of who had thrown it. A decorated general. In front of his entire unit, the sound echoed through the camp like an insult carved into silence. She didn't move at first, just stood there, dripping, her fists trembling, her breath sharp as shattered glass, and then something inside her shifted. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. They called her Private Elaine Turner, the youngest mechanic in the motor division. Small, quiet, and too soft-spoken for the chaos of men who'd seen years of desert wars. That morning, she'd corrected the general during a field inspection, gently, respectfully, pointing out that his Humvee's brake system had been installed backward. He laughed in her face, a deep, mocking sound that made the others grin. But when she insisted, his pride snapped. He grabbed the nearest bucket, full of dirty water from the maintenance bay, and poured it right over her head. The camp went dead silent. Even the wind stopped. She blinked, hair clinging to her face, eyes burning. And then she looked up, not at his rank, not at his medals, but straight into his eyes. "Sir," she said quietly, "you just humiliated the only person keeping your vehicles from killing your men." The general sneered. "You think you're irreplaceable, Turner?" "No, sir," she whispered. "I think you're lucky I care enough to tell you the truth." For a heartbeat, nobody breathed. And then he stepped closer, too close, his shadow swallowing hers. But before his hand could rise again, she did something no one expected. Elaine dropped the wrench she was holding, squared her shoulders, and with one clean motion, her fist met his jaw. The general staggered back, stunned. The camp gasped as he hit the ground, motionless for a moment that felt like forever. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She just stood there, chest heaving, surrounded by soldiers who didn't know whether to salute her or drag her away. "Get the medic," she said calmly. Now, even the sergeant obeyed. As the general came to, coughing and dazed, his eyes darted toward her. But there was no anger there anymore, only disbelief. He was a man used to fear, not truth. And for the first time in years, someone had reminded him what it looked like. Later, in the mess hall, whispers followed her like shadows. Some called her reckless, others called her a hero. But the next morning, when inspection began again, the general walked in, a bruise darkening his jaw, and halted in front of her. "Private Turner," he said, his voice quieter now, almost human. "About yesterday, I deserved that." She blinked, unsure if she'd heard him right. Then he added, "You were right about the brakes. I checked the reports myself." The men behind him shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them. The general took a breath. "You've got a good eye. Keep speaking up, even when people like me forget to listen." And then, he saluted her. The entire camp fell silent again, but this time, it wasn't from shock. It was from respect. That single act changed everything. From that day on, no one laughed when she spoke. The same hands that once mocked her now reached to help, to learn, to listen. Weeks later, when her unit rolled out under a burning red dawn, Elaine stood by the convoy, her uniform crisp, her head high. The general walked past her, nodding once. Mutual respect had replaced humiliation, because courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands in muddy boots, dripping water, refusing to bow, and kindness, real kindness, isn't soft. It's the strength to fight for what's right, even when it costs you everything. Because respect isn't given by rank, it's earned, one act of courage at a time. And sometimes, it starts with a single drop of water hitting the ground. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what you'd have done in her place, because every story like this reminds us, justice starts small, but it always echoes loud.